So I decided to pick up an accessory that definitely looked like a waste of money, and it's kind of felt like a waste of money since I got it. And this is part of Sony's launch of their new PS5, and that's the vertical stand that they released. Kind of a callback, I guess, to the PlayStation 2 stand, as you could buy one to set the system up vertically, even though it was still capable of standing up on its own. Well, today I figured we would take a look at the PlayStation 5 vertical stand and I guess try to figure out why it exists. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. Now, I say try to figure out why it exists. Obviously, the reason this exists is because Sony created this new PlayStation 5 system that doesn't come with the same kind of stand we've had previously, where with the original PS5, it was a stand that I will admit was pretty clever in its engineering to solve the issue of the PlayStation 5's weird shape. Having it set horizontally was not necessarily a thing that would just happen from the shape of the system. You had to have some sort of support mechanism, and Sony did figure that out, as well as a way for it to basically transform into a vertical stand, although you really didn't need it. I know a lot of people who just sit their PS5 up and don't even touch the stand, which is why this vertical stand is a bit head-scratching. I feel like Sony included those two little feet because they probably have data showing that most people who used the stand probably used it because you needed it as a horizontal support. But nonetheless, here we are with a $30 vertical stand. So on the front, it's pretty straightforward. You have the PlayStation symbols in the background here, kind of grayed out on the white background with vertical stand. On the back, it just says, stand your PS5 console in style. And yes, this will work for the older PS5 system, or the original one, as well as the newer, slim, quote-unquote, PlayStation 5 system. And looking around, it's really not a lot to this, as you'd sort of expect. Even on the side, it just says the contents, vertical stand, a mounting screw, attachment, and an instruction manual. So opening it up, we slide the stand out. It is encased sort of in this cardboard. And at the top right, there's the mounting screw. Of course, that will be needed to screw the stand into the bottom of the PlayStation 5. And when I took the stand out, I will admit it feels high quality in the sense that it's not all plastic. I was unsure when I first saw it with that ring if it was just plastic kind of plated with like the chrome look or painted that way. No, it is a legitimate metal ring that has some weight to it. And in fact, on the bottom, it has sort of the rubberized matte part or the finish so that it doesn't slide around, say, on a wooden desk. So it at least will keep the PlayStation 5 planted and in place when it's attached. I also noticed there was a pretty lengthy instruction manual with this thing, which was sort of funny to see at first because it's a stand. What do you really need? Well, because this thing is technically compatible with the original PS5 and the newer PS5, you have to kind of change it up a little bit depending on which system you'll install it to. So they have a mounting plate that comes with it. You need that if you're going to install it on the older PS5, as the screw hole and the fittings match up differently. In this case, I did go ahead and install it on the newer PlayStation 5. It does not need that extra piece of plastic, and it's very straightforward. It has some guides on the top that essentially sit into the different vent holes on the bottom, and you sort of move it around until you see where the screw hole would be, and then you just take the screw, and it says to hand tighten it. It does have a slot there. You can see where maybe you would put a coin or a flathead screwdriver. It was pretty unnecessary to go that route. Just hand tightening it was perfectly fine. Really, the only thing you have to do here is just kind of eliminate the gap between the PS5 and that piece of plastic, and that's kind of it. There's no need to really torque this screw in that much. But hey, once you have that all set up, you can put your PS5 down, and it's definitely vertical, and it's not really going to move much, but it really didn't move much before. In fact, if you take your PS5 now and set it up vertically and try to move it around, I noticed that my entire table moves rather than the PS5. And because the system is so bottom heavy, especially with that attachable disk drive, it really doesn't topple over easily at all, even when hit on the top of it. So the only thing I can go back to is what's described on the box, and that's style, or I guess making your PS5 look more premium. But then I have a problem with that as well because I have the disk drive installed. It sort of makes the PS5 look, I'll say, uneven on the stand. You can see on the left side, it looks normal, as you'd expect, with the ring coming all the way out, nice little space there between it, really showing off that premium metal stand around the bottom. But then on the other side, the disk drive just basically eats up the entirety of the stand where a little bit's poking out. And when you look at the PS5 head on, it just looks lopsided. It really emphasizes how much of an afterthought that entire disk drive is on the system. And really the newer PS5 already kind of did that more because it's more pronounced with the system having this big like bulge kind of jutting out the side. But now you really see it with that stand on the bottom. Oh, and I did notice that there were some screws on the stand, so I figured, hey, why not take this thing apart? It's like 7 of these smaller, what are they, like T5 or T4 screws. Once you unscrew them, all you will really see is how they are attaching the metal ring to the plastic. It basically uses pressure as you screw it together. It'll kind of clip around it. And they also have adhesive strips at the bottom as well, and that's basically it. There's really just not a lot to this, as you would expect. I assume most of the cost went into the screws and then just the metal ring on the bottom. Maybe some of the engineering around making it compatible with the original PS5 and the newer one, but this is what feels like just an incredibly unnecessary accessory. And I'm sure Sony has some data showing that there are people who are just using that older stand in the vertical orientation, but it was really, to me, only that necessary when horizontal. And in that case, the newer PlayStation 5, the PS5 Slim, has that all figured out with the pizza table things. I guess you could at least make the case, if you just have a digital PS5, that the stand at the bottom will look symmetrical without that big disk drive on the side. Even so, though, functionally, I feel like the system still can stand up without too much issue on its own. I also noticed that not a lot of stores had this thing in stock. I had to look around like quite a bit to find just like a few of them in stock at a GameStop. So I must wonder if even Sony realizes that not many people are going to be biting on a $30 stand for a system that can already stand up on its own. It's pretty unnecessary, I'd say, and for the most part would probably end up being a waste of money for people who maybe just keep their PS5 in an entertainment center anyway, since it's probably not prone to falling over. The only way I guess I could think of really needing this is if you are legitimately concerned with it moving around a lot and maybe falling over. For example, if you would have it maybe in a camper, right, where it's actually moving and you're like driving places, and maybe the PS5 could tip over. Or if it's up on a high shelf and you just want to have a little extra stability. I mean, I'm really reaching here to try to find a reason why you would buy this thing. So, no, there's no hidden bells and whistles or frills or anything with this stand. It's kind of a waste of $30. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Maybe you can come up with a reason as to why you would pick up this stand other than just hating money. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.